My name is Maria Garcia Reyes, born April the 24th, 1931, and today is January the 2021. When I was 8 years old, they were having a party at the park, and they were going to sell food and drinks, and they invited me. They weren't giving it away, they were selling it. So I told my mother if I could go. She said, Mija, I don't have any money to give you. I said, that's all right, I just want to go play in the park. She said, okay, go ahead. So I went. We were playing in the dirt, a little pile of dirt, and I found a quarter. So with that quarter, at that time it was a lot of money. So I went and bought something to drink and something to eat. And I took the change to my mother. She said, Mom, my mom said, Maria, where did you get that money? I said, I found a quarter, Mom. She said, okay. And that's what I remember about my 8 years old birthday. That's the first time the Lord was looking out after me, and I didn't even know it. I was 14 years old. And I'll tell you why. Because I graduated from junior high and went to high school, but I didn't go to high school because I couldn't afford it. My dad couldn't give me the money to buy the right clothes and the books. At the time, I had to buy the books. So I didn't go to high school. So my daddy got mad at me. He said, you don't go to school, you go to work. I don't want any lazy people here in my house. I said, okay, Dad. So I went downtown looking for a job at the drugstores and places like that where they sell clothes. And I told him I needed a job. And they would ask me, how old are you? I would say 18. I didn't even look 14, but I said 18. And they said, Mija, go get us your birth certificate and show us you're 18, and we'll give you a job. Well, I went home. I didn't have a birth certificate saying that I was 18, so I went home. I didn't find a job. So there was a little store about 3-4 blocks from my house. And I went in the little store and asked the lady if I could get a job. At the time, they used to pack little garlics and comino and shrimp in little packages and staple them on a cardboard, and they would sell them. So that's what I started doing at 14 years old. The lady gave me a job doing that. I worked there. So, but you know, my mother died when I was 18, and I didn't know how to do a damn thing. The only thing I knew how to do was tortillas. And that was because I made a mistake. My mother and my father went to the movies one night, and I stayed taking care of my brothers, my 2 brothers, Benny and Andy. And Benny said, Maria, I'm hungry. I said, there's no tortillas. He says, but I'm hungry. I said, I'm going to make some. So I did everything that my mother used to do. And I made tortillas for him and made him some eggs, and he was happy. When my mother came that night, she found tortillas on the table. And next morning she said, my dear, where did you get those tortillas? I said, I made them. She said, yeah. He said, who made the masa for you? Now the dough. I said, I did. You did? I said, yeah. I made the tortillas. She said, well, they're just like mine. She says, and from then on I was a tortilla maker. Well, I remember when the war was on, they used to ration everything. As a matter of fact, I have some stamps there you can see, where they ration the shoes, the sugar, a lot of stuff. And they used to give us stamps, and I have some to show you there, so that we could buy our stuff. And we had air raids. We used to hear that sound, and we had to be quiet, close the curtains, turn off the lights, and be very quiet. And the reason they did that was because they were afraid Japan would fly over the city and bomb the city. So we had air raids, so everybody would turn off the lights and be quiet. So it was scary. We were very scared because we thought we were going to be bombed. But thank God they never did. So, and I remember when the war was over, everybody was with the newspaper yelling, "War's over, the war's over." And they, oh yeah, I remember a lot of stuff about, I was about 14 or 15, 14 at the time that happened. I was 20, I think I was 20, going on 24, 25. Because I married him when I was 25, so I was in my 20s, late 20s, in the 20s. It was, well, I knew Frank way before, because my Dona Mine, that Dona Mine was my stepmother, and she had this daughter, Lupe. So Lupe was about 2 years younger than me, and we would hang out together, and she always told me she had a friend that would be good for me. That was Frank. Said, I want you to meet him. But I met him over the phone, because Frank was in the Veterans Hospital, because he was in the service, and he had pleurisy. It's got something to do with his lungs. And he was in the hospital. So we sat in the hospital for a whole year. So I would talk to him on the phone. And I loved his voice, and I liked his ideas, you know. So I said, okay. So finally, one day I met him downtown, and I didn't like him. You know, just a hello, goodbye, but I didn't like him. Well, on New Year's, Lupe, now the Dona Mine's sister, the daughter, said Frank's gonna pick us up from work, because I was working at Lackland Air Force Base. So he picked us up, and he dropped us off at home. And when he got off, he said, New York kiss. And I gave him a kiss on the cheek. And that was it. Then I started going out with him after the 1st of January. And we got married on the 1st of June, 6 months later. And I'll tell you, times were different from now. I went out with him one Sunday, and I spent the night with him. So I would not go home, because I knew I had done something wrong. I had slept with him, so I wasn't going home. So I told him to drop me off at my grandmother's. So at 5 o'clock in the morning, he dropped me off at my grandmother's. And my grandmother said, Mijita, what are you doing here so early? In Spanish, plus. And I said, Abuelita, I slept with this boy last night, and I'm not going home. Ay, Mijita, what if he doesn't marry you? And I called my dad, and I said, I'm not coming home, Dad. And he says, Mija, come home, that's all right. I said, no, I'm not coming home, Dad. I went to work on Thursday, and Frank picked me up, and we went to pick up whatever we needed to get married next day on Friday. We went and got Friday. I was at my grandmother's still, and I used the same, I had to wash the dress that I had spent on Sunday and got all dressed up. And he picked me up Friday, and we went to get married in the court. We got married in the court. Nobody was there but him and I and the lawyer. when we got married, I went to my dad's house to introduce Frank to my dad. So I said, Dad, this is my husband. And I showed him the paper that we had gotten married. So he called the neighbor. He only had one neighbor on the other side, Rosas. Called them to come over. And Dona Mina made chocolate, and my father went and got sweet bread, pan dulce, to celebrate my marriage. I think I got married, and I couldn't get pregnant, and I wanted to get pregnant. And Frank said, quit working, because I was still working. Quit working and you'll get pregnant, I bet you. So I quit working, and sure enough, I got pregnant with Nancy. But Nancy was the pride and joy of my father. And he wouldn't pay attention to my Nancy. And one day I said, Dad, don't you love my granddaughter? Your granddaughter? He said, yes, I love her. Then how come you don't play with her? You don't talk to her? He said, because you're going to take her away from me. I said, where? I'm not going to take her away from you. I'm not going anywhere. He said, okay. So he started playing with Nancy, and Nancy was following him all over the place. And him and Doña Mina would take her to the liquor store and buy her a soda or whatever she wanted. So one day he was fixing his car, and my father said, and Nancy said, Abuelito, in Spanish, what are you doing? ¿Qué estás haciendo? Because she didn't speak English then, she spoke Spanish. ¿Qué estás haciendo, abuelito? He said, oh, estoy combinando esta mugre chingada. Like, I'm fixing this fucking truck, something like that. And he said, oh. So that passed a few days, and then abuelito was still messing with the car, and he got a kick out of it because Nancy said, abuelito, are you fixing that fucking truck again? And he was telling everybody about Nancy, because Nancy was a smart little cookie when she was she started talking real soon. By the time she was 2 years old, she could really talk. So when I had Nancy, when my Nancy was born, she was born at home with a midwife. I pinched myself because I couldn't believe that I had a little baby next to me. She was so pretty. I was happy when all the other ones were born, but when my Nancy was born, that was a different story. She was my first child, and I was so happy. I woke up one day and Vivian had poop all over, and she had poop on her, and she was going like she had put something good on her face. Oh my gosh, I had to give her a bath. That was Vivian. And then one time I was going to spank her because she was big and she was still pooping in her panties. So I was going to spank her. And when she bent over for me to wipe her butt, they were playing a music on the radio, and she started dancing, moving her butt. And I thought it was so cute that she didn't get no spanking from me. That was Vivian. Well, I was afraid to go to the hospital because I had never had a baby in the hospital. Frank was my first one. I had Nancy and Vivian at home. And since I saw my mother die in the hospital, I thought if I went to the hospital, I was going to die. So I waited until the last minute to go to the hospital. And when I got there, at that time, they used to shave the ladies before you have a baby. So the girl had her water there and razor and everything. I said, I'm having this baby. She said, oh, no, not yet. I have to prepare you. I have to clean you. And she spread my legs. And she said, oh, my gosh, the baby's here already. So she ran and called the doctor. They rushed me into the delivery room. Sure enough, 2 pains, and Frankie was there already. That was Frankie. Oh, but my Frankie. Oh, that Frankie. He did more things than anybody else, mijo. He was only about 2 years old the first time, he fell out the window and broke his collarbone. When he was about 3 years old, I was at my friend's, and he was running around the table and cut his forehead. And I rushed him to the hospital. They gave him 2 or 3 stitches and put a Band-Aid. I said, oh my gosh, when Frank finds out, he's gonna get mad at me again. Because every time my kids got hurt, it was my fault. So when he came in, I said, I'm not gonna tell him until after he eats. But the minute he came in the door, big about Vivian, Daddy, Frankie got hurt and we took him to the hospital and blah, blah, blah. So, of course, I got yelled at because of that. One day, he found a, what do you call a nut? When you screw on a thing? And he put it on his finger. Well, his finger got swollen and he couldn't take it off. They called the fire department. They could find something to cut the nut off his finger. But he gave me a good scare, you know. Well, he plugged in the joiner because he was going to cut a board. Well, he didn't cut the board, he cut his finger. A few years ago, I went to Virginia, and he cut that little thing of his finger right here. And I was there, and him and Michael and I went to the hospital. I said, you have to wait until I'm here so you can cut your finger? So that's my Frankie. That's Frankie. Your mother is the only one that never gave me any problems. That was your mom. There's nothing I can say about my Letty that she was a goody two-shoe. Your mama's always been a goody two-shoe. I was always forgetting her. One time we lived in Pico, and we went to visit our compadres that live right next door where we used to live. We came home. We went to visit them, and we came home. Later that night, the phone rang, and it was your mom. Mom, when are you going to pick me up? I said, where are you? I hadn't even missed her. Where are you? She said, well, you left me over here, you comadres. And I told Frank, and Frank got mad. You forgot her. Well, you were with me. And they got her mad. I don't know what for. And she went like this, and she broke the window to the. But she was your Frank's favorite. Letty was his favorite. And he said, and they said, oh, Dad's gonna get mad at you when he comes home. And he said, no, mija, it's all right. I'll buy another window. And she said, ¿Qué quiere, mija? What do you want for Christmas? And she said, I want a Tom Jones record for Christmas. So he got her a Tom Jones record for Christmas. But that was my Letty. Yeah. Oh, that was Michael. Oh, my Michael. Ooh. Michael was about 2 or 3 years old. And the landlord, the fence to the kitchen was loose. And Frank told him, he said, when you take that fence down, be sure and put it back again right away. He said, because if you don't, one of my kids gets hurt. And I don't want that to happen. Well, the guy came and took the fence and didn't put it back up. And of course, Michael went and sat on the porch and went back thinking the fence was there as usual. And he went and hit himself on the sidewalk, on the driveway. It was cement. So I don't know if they gave him 2 or 3 stitches in the back of his head. Frank had a toolbox in the living room, and it was very sharp in the edges of the box. And Michael was jumping on the bed, and he jumped and he fell and hit the box right here in his above his nose, and blood started gushing out. So sure enough, I don't know how many stitches Michael got, because he really got hurt. There was a second time Michael was hurt. Well, many years later, he was riding his bicycle and he was drunk. and he hit a mailbox. As a matter of fact, the mailbox is still standing there in Pico, where Michael went and hit the mailbox. So, of course, I ran to the hospital. I was scared. And there was nothing wrong with him. He was drunk and he hit the mailbox. Of course, he had a gash on his leg, and he got stitches on his leg, and I think he still has a scar there. But there was nothing wrong with him. I said, there's nothing wrong with him. He's drunk. One time, he had a fight with his boy, and I guess they called a policeman, and they came and got Michael, and he was drunk, and he was calling the police all kinds of names. So they handcuffed him, and they beat the heck out of him, and they took him in. So they let him go. So that was another time that he made my life miserable. Michael had long hair, beautiful long hair. And him and his buddy were at this store, I don't know where it was, and they dared him to steal a little cassette, I guess. And they called the cops and they got him. And the guy said, I'm not gonna press charges. I just don't want that kid in my store anymore. He better not step in this store again. So the cop took him home. And I said, Michael? And he said, Michael, you know what they do with little boys like you in jail? He said, I'm gonna tell you in front of your mom. They'll make, with that beautiful hair you got, you look like a beautiful little girl. They'll make a girl out of you in jail. So that was a nice time, okay? That was Michael. Oh, my Gigi. When we moved to Pico, she was only about 8 or 9 months. She was beginning to crawl and try to walk. One time when they were playing outside, the little girl next door ate some kind of fruit. And you know how they used to open the cans with a can opener like this and leave it on the can? So the little girl threw the can in the yard, and Gigi fell and cut her wrist right here. And it was bleeding, and she went in the house and she was putting water. She wanted, but it wouldn't stop. I said, no, mija, let your daddy take you to the doctor. So we took her to the doctor, and he was yelling at her, you know. I said, Frank, she's scared enough with her cut on her hand. Quit yelling at her. And he said, and then he changed his tune. He said, look, mija, if you have a scar there, I'll buy you a bracelet so they won't see the scar. And that's the only thing I can think about Gigi. She was a sweet little girl. Gave me no problems at all. Ay, ese Mauricio. And Linda was pregnant and I was pregnant. Well, she went on induced labor to have Willie, but I didn't. She says, why don't you go and induce labor? I said, no, he'll come when he's ready. And sure enough, he came. And he was 10 pounds, 13 ounces. That's my baby Huey. Did you ever see baby Huey? Baby Huey was a big bird or a guy that they called him baby Huey. Every time he went like this, his button would fall off his shirt. That my baby Huey. I was happy for him, and all the kids were happy. They wouldn't let me hold him only when I breastfed him, because everybody wanted to play with him, be with him, and cuddle him and everything. So his sisters, my gosh, he played baseball, and they had one helmet. So all the players used the same helmet when they were gonna hit. Well, when he came to Maurice, it didn't fit him. His head was too big. His father, Frank, used to tell him, come here, Maurice. And he would cover him and cover himself. And he says, okay, now say, chinga tu madre, and or motherfucker or something. And he didn't want to say it because I was going to, Your mother can't hear you. You're under the blanket. And he would tell bad words under the blanket because I couldn't hear him. That's what he thought. That's what Frank used to tell him. That was Maurice. Well, to tell you the truth, none of my boys graduated from high school. Frankie didn't graduate, Michael didn't graduate, neither did Maurice. All the girls did, but not them. Thank God they turned out okay. They were good workers. I've never had a favorite child. I love them all the same, for different ways or for different things, but I've never had a favorite child. I love all of them the same. Because if they would put him all 7 right there and we say, we're going to kill one, pick one, I wouldn't know which one to pick. I couldn't pick none of them. So there you have it all. I mean, I don't have any favorites. They think I do, but I don't. I love them all the same. Different ways, for different things, but I love them all the same. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I was feeling sorry for myself when they moved in here. I said, my kids don't care for me. They're gonna put me back there because nobody wants me. Okay? That was my mind. Well, you know what happened? Again, he showed me different. I fell and broke my hip. And what happens? Frankie and Michael came from Virginia to see me. Nancy and Vivian cleaned my butt because I couldn't clean myself. I had to go to the bathroom. They would clean my butt. Gigi would give me a shower. And your mother would bring me stuff. So everybody catered to me. So I found out that everybody loves me, mijo. But I was feeling sorry and I thought nobody loved me. That was one of the times I thought nobody cared for me. But now I have wonderful kids, all of them. They're all there for me. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I still have February, March, at least in my age. I count one day at a time. Because I'm talking to you right now. You don't know you could be talking to me tomorrow. You'll say, hey, I spent the day with my grandma. Yeah, you don't know, mijo. But I'm ready. I'm ready for whenever the Lord wants to take me. I've lived a good life, bad and good, but I'm still here. The advice I give to my children and my grandchildren, to love each other and help each other. When one is down, help him. If he needs help, help him. That's all I can give advice to all my grandchildren and my grandchildren. To love each other. Because the world is big, but there's a lot of hate in this world. Look at all these people fighting for what? What a world it would be with everybody loving each other and taking care of each other. It would be great. So that's my advice I give to all my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren. Well, I love every one of them, all of them. Even the little ones that are not going to know me, only going to see me in pictures. I have to tell them that I love them even if I don't know them. Bye, everyone. I love you guys. I hope you like my story.